New York Giants have a quarterback controversy. Some thoughts about that coming up next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. My name is Patricia Traina, P-Train, and happy to have you with us. And big shout out to my everydayers, my Locked On Giants community members, everybody in between, newcomers, wherever you're coming from. I appreciate you tuning in. On today's Locked On Giants episode, do the Giants have a quarterback controversy? Yeah, folks, unfortunately, we do have to talk about this. And I'll explain why. We're going to talk about it in just a minute. So we're going to start off with that topic. Then we're going to hear from Jaylen Hyatt. I had a chance to catch up with Jalin Hyatt in the locker room after the game on Sunday, and he had some pretty interesting things to say about where he wants to be, you know, in terms of his career. So we'll play you that interview. It was a short interview, and then I'll have some thoughts about that. And then finally, I have a segment called Special Regrets. And in case you haven't figured it out, it's about special teams and some of the really weird decisions that this team made that I think are coming back to bite them when it comes to the special teams unit. And special teams, of course, 1/3 of the game. So I just felt that it's a topic that we need to talk about. So that is our agenda on today's Locked On Giants podcast. Again, thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day, or if watching on YouTube, your first watch of the day. Do the Giants have a quarterback controversy? All right, so where is this coming from? Last week, and I'm talking about after the Buffalo game, head coach Brian Daboll was asked, given how, Tyrod Taylor filling in for Daniel Jones with the neck injury, Tyrod Taylor didn't do a bad job, save for the brain blip that he had at the end of the first quarter. So Daboll was asked, are you contemplating, making a change at quarterback when Daniel gets back? And Daboll flat out came out and said, no. He shut that down, in a snap. Tyrod Taylor goes out there this past weekend against Washington, a team that the Giants historically have beaten more times than not. And Taylor has another good game. He moved the offense well. He did a lot of good things, made some good throws, didn't get rattled when facing pressure, looked like the cool cucumber that he is behind center, just a guy who's unflappable according to his teammates and according to what he put out on the field. And the question again comes up in the post-game presser. Somebody asked Daboll, are you thinking about, a change, not in those exact words, but along those lines. This time, however, Daboll didn't just come right out and say no. What he did was he deflected the question, or his answer, I should say, and said something to the effect of, we're glad to have Tyrod, good player, et cetera, et cetera. So those comments right there set the internet ablaze. Oh my God, the Giants are now backpedaling on Daniel Jones. There's a controversy coming up, et cetera, et cetera. But do they really have a quarterback controversy coming up? Let's try to look at this objectively. Now, Tyrod Taylor has played fairly well given the circumstances, right? Hasn't scored a lot of points. Part of that is his doing. Part of it is not his doing. Against Washington, they probably should have had 10 more points at least on offense, but they had a missed Graham Gano field goal, and the fumble by Saquon inside the 20 did not help things. So, and then of course, if you throw in the dropped interception by Thibodeau, but that would have been a defensive score. So the Giants still struggling to score, big points, but there were a lot of chunk plays. There were a lot of, positive plays coming from Tyrod Taylor behind a makeshift offensive line, which, by the way, looks like it's settled down. But, here's the thing that you have to remember. And I don't want to take away from Tyrod Taylor's performance because I liked what I saw from him against Washington, but he had Saquon back. All right. Saquon does make a difference. Now, you could go back and you could say, well, Daniel Jones had Saquon in week 1 against the Cowboys, and he had Andrew Thomas in his original starting offensive line. And where did he get them? You can make that argument, except the offensive line didn't do well with holding up. And the more hits Daniel Jones took, the more rattled he became, and the more his internal clock got messed up. So, coming back to the question of controversy, I don't necessarily think that it's going to be a controversy between Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. I do think that if Daniel Jones is cleared for contact to return, he will get an opportunity to go back under center and see how he performs. Who knows? Maybe the 2 weeks away or however many weeks away will help him to clear his mind and, reset, if you will. Sometimes, the absence kind of, allows you to shake off the cobwebs. But in terms of the long-term picture, if Daniel Jones struggles again once he gets back out there, and it is assumed that he will get out there, although with the neck injury, those are tricky. So we'll have to see if he gets cleared for contact this week. Brian Dable did not have an update for us as of Monday morning when he spoke to us at 11:30. Daniel Jones, to me, is not necessarily competing against Tyrod Taylor for the future, so much as he is competing against a potential draft pick for the future. Now, what do I mean by that? If Daniel Jones comes back and he struggles or gets injured again, if you are the Giants, you say to yourself, okay, we can get out of this contract after 2024. We will probably lose games that will put us in a position to draft a quarterback in 2024. So if you're the Giants and you're thinking to yourself, okay, we're sort of still rebuilding here, and you could see they went to the youth movement at cornerback because Adoree Jackson was out. So they went to the youth movement. They've been going to the youth movement in other positions. So they're trying to kind of, set the roster, get the roster set for, good things to happen down the future. So if Daniel Jones struggles, you say to yourself, okay, you know what? If we, the Giants, are in striking distance of getting a top quarterback in the draft next year, we do it. And yes, you're going to have to pay Daniel Jones if you keep him, unless you trade him, then you can save some money. But then maybe you set up a situation kind of like when Eli Manning was acquired via trade from the then San Diego Chargers, and they had Kurt Warner on the team. Kurt Warner kind of, was the stopgap. And once Eli was ready to play, Eli went in and Kurt Warner sat. You want a more recent example? Look no further than Eli and Daniel. All right. Eli was on this roster. He was making a ton of money. I forget exactly how much it was, but it was a lot more than what Kurt Warner was making back in the day when Daniel was a rookie back in 2019. And the plan there was for Eli to start the season and go as far as they could take him and eventually give way to Daniel, who at the time was a rookie. So who knows? Maybe that's what the plan is down the line. Because remember, the Giants, when they structured Daniel Jones's contract, they set it up so that they could get out of it after 2 years, which tells you all you need to know about what they really think about Daniel, that they're not 100% sure that he's the guy for the future. If they were, Daniel would have gotten a contract probably structured like a Jalen Hurts contract or a Justin Herbert contract or a Joe Burrow contract or any of the top quarterbacks who are signed to blockbuster deals for the long term. So again, in terms of a quarterback controversy, I don't see it per se between Daniel and Tyrod. Can Tyrod take the Giants the rest of the way if he needs to? Absolutely. Would I feel comfortable with him at the quarterback? Absolutely. If Daniel can't go, or if the coaches decide that Daniel's just not going to get it done, go with Tyrod. I'm fine with that. Tyrod, like I said, cool as ice out there. And he was effective. I mean, there's probably nothing he hasn't seen. But the quarterback position, rather than say that they're having a controversy, they're maybe approaching a crossroads there. And again, some of you are like, oh my God, but they invested 4 years, $160 million. Again, folks, they could get out of it after the second year. And worst case scenario, like I said, you have another situation like Eli and Daniel in 2019. It's going to stink because it's going to eat up salary cap space. But the Giants, if they make some moves before the trade deadline to clear a little bit more cap space, I don't think they really have anybody outside of maybe Saquon and Xavier McKinney that they absolutely positively have to spend big money on to re-sign. So they might not be in such bad shape next year financially, even if they have to carry Daniel, and Daniel is the stopgap for them at quarterback while a rookie potentially comes in and cuts his teeth learning the offense. All right. So that being said, up next, Jalin Hyatt. I had a chance to speak to him, and he's got some goals that he wants to accomplish, and he shared those with me. And I'm going to share that conversation with you right after this. Hey, Giant fans, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, don't you? So that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I've used LinkedIn Jobs to find aspiring writers and editors for the Giants Countryside I run over on SI's Fan Nation, and the process is not only super easy, but a big time saver. Simply add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so that you can quickly prioritize whom you'd like to interview and hire. Don't spend time sorting through endless resumes and dead-end leads. Put LinkedIn Jobs to work to you today for free by visiting linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, Giant fans, if you're looking for a fun and different way to play fantasy football this season, you need to check out Prize Picks. Just pick 2 or more players, predict their stats, and then sit back and see how they perform. It takes less than 60 seconds to make an entry, and best of all, you can turn a few bucks into some nice cash with the right projections. Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app, known for its quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and wide selection of players and stat types. And they offer weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts, like Taco Tuesday, when each Tuesday Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide you with even more value. So what are you waiting for? Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL, and that promo code is LockedOnNFL for your first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, everybody, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm Patricia Trainer, your host, P-Train. And again, thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast. Got a busy week. It's Jets week on Locked On here. Giants Jets coming up on Sunday. The Giants are the home team, so they will host Gang Green. That means on Thursday, the crossover show will be between myself and John Butchko of Locked On Jets, and we'll bring you everything you need to know about that particular matchup. Also on the program, if I can, I'm hoping to get in the locker room. I'm hoping to interview a specific player. I have a guy in mind that I want to talk to because I haven't really spoken to him yet this year. He's a defensive player, and I think he's someone that you guys would enjoy hearing from. So I have to see if he's available in the locker room, A, and B, if I can get him, for a one-on-one. I think it would make for a nice interview for you guys. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll be a video interview for those of you who watch on YouTube, but you'll at least be able to hear what was said. And speaking of interviews and stuff, I had a chance to catch up with Jalin Hyatt after the game on Sunday. Hyatt had a crowd of reporters around him, the usual post-game spiel and whatnot. And I really wanted to wait it out because, sometimes if you wait these crowds out, you can get a player one-on-one and you can get your own questions in and whatnot. So I did that. And Jalin Hyatt, very sweet young man, very polite, very accommodating. Sometimes I joke around with him about his mustache that he's trying to grow. So, just very friendly in that regard. So anyway, Jalin Hyatt had himself a nice game, a big playmaker. And he's fast getting a reputation as a big playmaker. So I went up to him after the game and I just started talking to him about his goals and, are you what you want to be at this point, or what's your ceiling and that sort of thing. So I'm going to play that interview for you now. For those of you watching on YouTube, I don't have the video. I just have the audio, but you'll see a picture of Jalin. It was a short conversation because, you're limited in the locker room and post game, how long you can talk to a player, but I got in what I needed to get in from him, and I'm going to play that for you right now. Jalin, do you feel like you've hit your stride in this offense?
I feel more comfortable. I got the plays down. Coaches are starting to trust in me. But I feel very, very comfortable. Just what we're doing, what we're trying to do. And we just got to, continue to get better, continue to stack days on days, and, hopefully start getting more wins in the column. So that's what we need to focus on.
I know you're your toughest critic, so what would you still like to show that you haven't shown yet in this offense?
Yeah, to show I'm a complete player, complete receiver. You just can't go deep all day. I want to show that I can do everything: slants, in cuts, out routes. Just everything that the elite guys do. The Stephon Diggs, and there's all those guys that do it. And that's the level I want to play at. That's where I want to be at. And you got to work for it. So I got to continue to work.
Do you feel like this game has finally slowed down for you enough to take that next level?
Yeah, preseason was fast for me. Everybody's running to the ball way faster than college, and it took a little time for me to adjust, but I feel very, very good about the game speed now. And like I said, it goes back to our leaders. They helped me throughout this process of getting drafted and learning the playbook and coming in every day trying to get better. So we have a great team. We have a good team, and we got to continue to stack days on days and get more wins in that column.
All right, everybody. That was Jalin Hyatt, wide receiver of the New York Giants. And I found it interesting. He mentioned Stephon Diggs, a player that I guess he aspires to be like. He also mentioned, how he wants to be more of a complete receiver. And I found that comment interesting because a lot of people have asked me in the past, why didn't the Giants get him into the game a lot sooner? And I have no proof of this. This is just a theory that I have. But coming from Tennessee, and given how he was utilized in that offense, I wonder how well it really prepared him for life in the NFL. Hyatt was one of those guys who, like, if you go back and look at things that Joe Schoen has said about him, about, look, you got to look sometimes beyond how they're utilized. You got to look at the whole skill set and so forth. It just sounded to me like maybe the Giants had to get Jalin Hyatt a little bit more up to speed on, their particular offense, which requires a lot more of the receivers than maybe Tennessee did. And just, getting him to a point where he could be more than just a guy who just takes off running down the field, makes a catch, and then, heads for the end zone. Playing receiver in the NFL, I don't have to tell you guys this, but, I'll mention it for what it's worth. It's so much more than just, run, catch the ball, and see if you can beat the guy in front of you. With this Giants offense, there are different, decisions that a receiver has to make, different options on the routes. Sometimes there's blocking that's involved, right? That's an underrated skill that a lot of receivers have to do in the NFL that don't get mentioned very often. So Hyatt, to me, had to learn all that stuff. And he's a fast learner. And, I think back to the beginning of the year, once training camp ended, and how many times Hyatt would be seen spending extra time with Coach Mike Groh, the wide receivers coach, before practice or during warmups. The part of practice open to the media. I think back to training camp, how many times that young man was attached to the hip of Groh, trying to learn all that he could, trying to soak stuff up. I think back to the times in the locker room when he had his tablet and he was going over something with Sterling Shepard, or maybe looking at something with Daniel Jones. Kid was constantly learning, constantly looking to expand his knowledge, to get better. And credit goes to him because he's starting to really put it all together. And it's paid off for the Giants. So I don't know if necessarily, there's going to be future game plans this week or even next week in which he's used as an underneath receiver. But the more he can do, the better. And you've got to admire a guy who wants to be a complete player and not just a specialist, because, sometimes receivers, they're all about their stats. If I could get 1,000 yards, great. I don't care how I get it, great. Hyatt doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. So just a very mature rookie, although I don't know if you could say they're a rookie now. I think once we're 6 weeks into the season, maybe they're not rookies anymore, but I'm going to call him a rookie because it's his first year. Now, I also asked Brian Dable about Jalin Hyatt today on on the call that he did with the media. I don't have that audio clip, but I will read you what Dable said in response to the question. Actually, I asked a question about him and another reporter did, but the question that I asked of Dable about Hyatt and was, I was talking to him and he said he wants to be more of a complete receiver. What does he still need to do? Obviously, besides getting better, because, Dable would have said, oh, he's got to get better now, everywhere. So kind of tried to cut that off at the knees there. What does he need to do to become a complete receiver? And Dable said, didn't really give me much of an answer. He said, quote, he's young, he's improving, but with these young players, we still got a ways to go in detail, assignment, execution, everything that the position gets evaluated on. Those are things we'll continue to work on with him. It was good to see him make a few plays, but certainly we have ways to improve. So the nut of that answer to me was detail, assignment, execution. I don't know the specifics. Only the coaches know what the calls are and what they're expecting. But, the little details, it sounds like, Hyatt has kind of, grasped the macro aspect of playing the position. Now it's just the micro aspect, the little details that are going to mean the difference between this young man being good and being great. So lot to like about this young man, Jalin Hyatt, one of the most exciting receivers to come on this team since Odell Beckham, the guy who's number 13 he's wearing, by the way. Now, if Hyatt can be as effective and explosive as Odell was without, all the problems, the injury issues and all the drama and stuff, the Giants got themselves a steal in this kid. And that's all we can really hope for from Jalin Hyatt. All right, coming up next, I want to talk about special regrets. And I'm talking specifically about special teams. So hang around. We'll be right back. Hey, Giant fans, if you want to secure tickets to your favorite concert shows and sporting events without the stress, you need to check out Game Time, the fast and easy way to buy tickets right up until the day of the event. With amazing deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you're going to have. With Game Time, you not only get your lowest prices guaranteed, you also get to see exactly what your vantage point is going to be in the venue. And they also offer event cancellation protection. And if you find that the tickets in the same section and row are for less elsewhere, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So go ahead and snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Terms apply, and that code is LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase at Game Time. Hey, Giant fans, the Locked On Giants Insiders Club is where you get exclusive content delivered directly to your phone, such as private Q&A videos, stats, and so much more. Plus, members can keep the conversation going with me and one-on-one conversations via text. Already dozens of Giants fans have become part of this exclusive community, and I'd like to invite you to try it out as well. For more information or to register for your free, no-obligation 14-day trial visit, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnNYGiants. Again, that URL is joinsubtext.com/LockedOnNYGiants. All right, everybody, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And on this final segment of today's program, special regrets. I'm talking about special teams. Now, this is a unit that I don't think we talk about enough, but we really should be, because it's interesting. I thought the unit calmed down a little bit the last few weeks, and then boom, we have problems again on Sunday. And I went back and I was driving home last night from the game, Sunday night from the game, and I was thinking about what could have been with this unit and the decisions that this team made with special teams. And I'm going to start specifically with the return game. Now, I go back and I say to myself, okay, why didn't they give Jamison Crowder a look? Why didn't they try Jaden Mickens at punt returner? Why go with Eric Gray, a guy who hadn't really done it? Were they trying to justify giving him a uniform on game day because he was a draft pick? What did they see in him to justify saying, you're going to be our guy? I still can't figure it out. I mean, to me, I watch Eric Gray, and he tries at it. I don't want to take that away from him, but he's not a natural punt returner. He doesn't have the speed or the vision or the quickness. And you combine that with the ball security issues that he's had, where he's dove for punts and muffed them. He's had 2 muffs so far. And, last year the team, remember, the coaching staff benched Richie James for muffing 2 punts in 1 game. So you ask yourself and you say, what are they doing at punt return? All right. So then they take Eric Gray off. He gets injured. I think he has a calf injury. So he comes off. Sterling Shepard goes in, another guy who hasn't really returned punts in his career. And what happens? He goes to basket catch one, and boom, it goes through his hands, gets muffed. The Commanders recover. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, okay, do you just want a guy back there to field the ball? Do you want to try and advance the ball? Why not go with a Darnay Holmes, who has had experience returning punts? It's almost like they're trying to justify having these guys have game day uniforms. No disrespect to Shep. I think y'all know how I feel about Shep and how, I'm glad he's on the roster, but it just seems like they're trying to force feed a role for him. And I don't know that it's helping him. Same thing with Eric Gray. They're trying to force feed a role for him. And again, I'm not sure it's helping the team. So you look at Jamison Crowder, who was with the team in the summer and then got cut. And now he's doing good things for Washington. He was special teams player of the week a couple weeks ago. And you say to yourself, well, yeah, the reason why we didn't, give him a look is because we knew what we had in him. Come on. I don't buy that for a second. That's like the oldest excuse in the book, because people do change. They get better. Sometimes their skills deteriorate as they get older. You don't really necessarily know what you have in a guy. If that's the case, then You wouldn't play any of your starters. You wouldn't practice any of your starters that you had last year because you know what you have in them, right? So I just don't understand what they were thinking there. And, look, special teams, if it's done right, it can help. You get a good return specialist who can average 10 yards a game or a punt return. That can help mean the difference between starting deep in your own territory and starting near midfield. It's important, folks. And it just seems like the last few years, the Giants have been content with, let's just put somebody out there who's going to secure it and let's not worry about anything else. It's not the way to go. And when you look back at the decisions this coaching staff and general manager Joe Schoen, who's involved with some of these personnel decisions, when you look back at the decisions they made and you say, okay, this was a bright decision, this was not. The return specialist one, that was a clunker. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise. That was a clunker. Disappointing. And, look, what did the Giants do? They went and they signed a guy today. The name escapes me, but they signed a return specialist who had last been with the Steelers. I think he started with New England, and he's with the Steelers. Was with the Steelers until recently. A guy who's averaging over 10 yards per punt return in his career. What does that tell you? The guy's on the practice squad. But what does that tell you, folks? That, we better get somebody in here who can return punts because we don't have anybody who can return punts. So that's what that tells me. All right. And by the way, I just looked up the guy's name. I should have done this to start with. The guy that they signed, hopefully I don't botch this last name, Gunnar Olszewski. I think that's how you pronounce the last name. So it's Gunnar Olszewski is how I think it's pronounced. So we'll see if he ultimately finds his way to the 53-man roster. He is on the practice squad, but the Giants, one of many decisions with special teams that you're sitting there scratching your head and wondering what were they thinking. All right, Giant fans, that's going to do it for us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you keep it here all week. We have more new shows coming your way as we get you ready for the next Giants game, as well as cover all things Giants. And until tomorrow, everybody have a great day, and I will see you then.